Okay, good afternoon and welcome to today's webinar titled COVID-19 and Contactless Payments. Your shoppers are ready for a cashless society. Are you too? Thank you so much for joining today. I'm Melisande Mual, publisher of the Paypers, and I'm delighted to co-host this webinar with Limonetik. Limonetik provides payments on the platform as a service basis to address a broad range of complex payment needs for omnichannel, multi-channel retailers, marketplaces, gig economy, acquirers, PSPs, and so on. Today, we will talk about the development of e-wallets for over the last years and discuss the key factors that determine the success of e-wallet adoption. Furthermore, we will talk about the latest trends and developments in how people pay in-store and online across different regions. We will dive into how merchants can overcome the challenges of accepting the relevant payment methods across the country. Today, I'm joined by Christophe Bourbier, the CEO and co-founder of Limonetik, and Angelo CACI, Managing Director of Syrtals Cards. And before asking the speakers to tell a little bit more about themselves, I would like to start with some quick notes regarding housekeeping. This presentation will take approximately 40 minutes, and we will have 10 to 15 minutes for a Q&A webinar. On the screen, you can see the chat panel, which includes a chat room and a Q&A panel. This Q&A panel can be used to ask questions throughout the presentation. We will compile these questions, and I will ask them at the end of the webinar. So, Christophe and Angelo, could you tell us a little bit more about yourself and kick off the discussion?
Angelo, you want to start?
With pleasure. Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. I am Angelo CACI. I'm based in Paris. I am a partner at Syrtals. Syrtals is a French consultancy specialized in the field of cards and payments. We have been working in that domain for over 20 years. We are a team of 120 consultants, and we are working on clients originating from many sectors, obviously financial services, but also retail, e-commerce, telecom operator, insurance, as well as challenger banks.
Thank you. And Christophe Bourbier, I'm the co-founder and CEO of Limonetik. As Melisande said, so we are a white label payment platform, very dedicated to alternative payment, international payment, and local payments. We have 285 payment methods connected, and we offer that to all payment players, PSP, gateways, acquirers, payment institutions, and so on. But we'll talk more about that after.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Christophe and Angelo. Small request to you guys. Could you please mute yourself if the other speaker is talking? And one last call for the audience. Do reach out to these two speakers. They are very knowledgeable on this topic, and they would love to take your questions. So, Angelo, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Melisande. Hi, everyone again. So I have prepared one story, and as you well know, the story of payments is very disparate according to the country which is considered. But I will hope you will enjoy it. As a table of contents, I would like to follow the following one. So when we talk about digital payments, what are we talking about? Where do we come from? What is currently happening, and where are we going? What are the enabling factors for the development of digital wallets, digital payments, and contactless? And we will dive into different geographies to see the difference from one to another one. And last but not least, we will share a few challenges and look at some potential future. So the multiple facets of digital payments. First of all, I would like us to remember what did happen in the last 20 years, especially due to the development of e-commerce and mobile commerce. So along the years and in nearly all countries, we have seen a strong development of e-commerce business, and this has led to the birth of new payment methods close to the usual ones, if we consider cards especially. And those payment methods have been useful to cope with specific expectations from the users and from the merchants. And among those new payment methods, e-wallets, e-commerce wallets, when we used to call them, have found their place. And if we look at a few of them, and probably the most famous one, Paypal, which is present in over 100 countries, is an endless story since they started over 20 years ago. At the same time, when a few wallets have shown their relevance, we have also seen the arrival and the death of a few other e-commerce wallets in a few countries. If we consider Spain, UPay, if we consider France, Quickso and Byster, if we consider Germany, Yapital and Click and Buy. So it's not always easy to solve the usual and eternal chicken and egg problem when you have to have users, merchants, and volume of transactions. So it's not an easy path for all of them. Those which are still alive, obviously, does have a competitive advantage. If we consider now mobile payments, it's an old story as well. We started probably talking about mobile payments over 10 years ago, and probably at that time we were more used to talk than to use mobile payments in reality, even if we are all keen to use our dear phones and smartphones, which are getting smarter and smarter. We have not immediately decided to use them as the payment method. It has changed, but for a long time, it has only been a dream. And at the same time that I said yesterday that e-commerce wallets disappeared, we have seen many, many initiatives for a decade, and some of them indeed decided to close. And I have mentioned a few of them. ISIS was an initiative by the US telecom operators, M6, the equivalent from the retail side. ChessPay was one of the last to close, probably together with Barclays, which decided a few weeks ago to close its Pingit solution. And we have also Orange Cash, which is a solution launched in major countries in France by Orange, the MNO, and M-Pass used to be a coalition of telecom operators in Germany. Obviously, beyond these cases, we have other ones which are very much successful, and we will have the opportunity to look at a few of them. Today, lines indeed have been blurring between e-commerce wallets, mobile payment services, and we are now in the era of digital wallets. And if you want to cook a digital payment service, you can grab a few of those ingredients I have mentioned here, according to your strategy, according to your means, according to your willingness, according to the customers you want to delight. So you can choose according to the technology, depending on where you are, in Africa, in Europe, or in Asia. Probably you will decide to focus on NFC or on QR code. In terms of payment mechanism, it will be based on cash, on cards, on account. It will be prepaid or postpaid. Will you be willing to tackle all channels or a specific one? do you want your service to be universal or limited to a certain scope? And do you want to get an international or at least a multi-country reach, or you want to be the best in your home country? So if you look at those different ingredients, and on top of payments, you can add additional features, loyalty, P2P, any kind of rewards, etc., you can transform your solution possibly into what we are used to call a super app. You have to bear in mind that it's, again, easier said than done, and you have to consider key success factors. Obviously, all those key success factors don't apply at the same time, but sooner or later you will have to cope with those expectations and those features if you want to delight at the same time users and merchants. If the user doesn't find a superior service according to other payment means is used to using, if your merchant is not motivated to accept your solution because it's too costly compared to other model, if you are not prepared to enhance your acceptance network, you will miserably fail. That's the point, and I think these key success factors, we will have to take them in mind for any new stakeholder today or tomorrow who would like to enter the arena of digital payments.
Can I ask you a question?
Of course.
Well, if we look into European merchants, where NFC technology is ubiquitous available, from their perspective, what considerations do they make when they have to choose, or when they want to choose between QR codes or NFC? What are sort of the pros and cons?
First of all, they have to take account of what their users have in their pockets. So it's very important. We, as you said, in major countries, especially in Europe and in the USA, NFC is quite common, and it has been quite common thanks to the cards before the use of mobile payment services. So they could be keen to privilege NFC against QR code. But at the same time, we know that we can have a certain dependence against the cell manufacturers, especially Apple, which has a closed system against an Android one, which is more open. We have notably seen that most of the retailers in Europe and in the USA have their own mobile payment solution, which is 90% of the case based on a QR code. Another consideration we could add is that the tourists, the Chinese tourists, which are traveling, certainly less in those times, but usually they travel to Europe and to the USA, and they want to use their beloved Alipay and Wechat Pay. And if you don't have a QR acceptance network, you can't get those clients, and we know they have a heavy purchasing power. So again, it's a question of trade-off, but you can or you have to consider those different points of view before to make a decision.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks. Yeah.
So many combinations to set up a digital wallet service, and as a consequence, a multitude of stakeholders in the arena. So I think that if you consider those different boxes, you should, in theory, position your digital wallets into one of those. On the left side, you have the e-commerce wallets, or those which are coming from the e-commerce world, like PayPal, Yandex, or Skrill, for instance. Obviously, banks are key players in the payment arena, and along the years, they have made many attempts around digital payments and mobile payment services. Some have failed, but today, most of them have probably decided or are aware that being together should be more effective than playing alone. Schemes obviously are always partners of issuers and banks, and they are keen to support them in their digital journeys. We have mentioned XPace, obviously, Apple, Google, and Samsung, and we can say that since they entered the market 6 or 5 years ago, they definitely pushed the development of the market. We can't ignore web giants, and we know some of them are number one in the world when it comes to mobile payments, especially the Chinese ones, Alipay and Wechat Pay. Amazon, Facebook are close to that market, and they have made some breakthrough, especially in India. And in the rest of Asia, we can mention Line, Rakuten, or Kakao Pay, which are dominating in their home countries, Japan and Korea. And obviously, we can add a series of other players, fintechs, startups, retailers, as I have just said. Most of them have launched their own solution with some or less success. And MNOs, mobile network operators, are definitely pioneers and leaders in some emerging countries. And we can say it's true, definitely in Africa. So if we consider why the future of digital payment is so bright, it's a combination of factors. First of all, and it's true, it has been true for over 10 years, e-commerce development has seen an uninterrupted double-digit annual growth. So it shows that people are more and more keen to use e-commerce and mobile commerce as well, which now represent nearly half of all purchases made online. And so with some emerging countries really having a stronger growth than major countries. So you have the figures on the left showing the volume globally in 1989, and the figures of last year's, and this range is not decreasing at all. And obviously, one of the additional engines of the good health of e-commerce is the dramatic situation we are all living in for over 1 year. But if we consider one indicator amongst other, we have chosen the Salesforce Shopping Index. We have seen a stronger rise in e-commerce and mobile commerce purchases from the second quarter last year. The growth has been less strong in the successive quarters, but it's still amazing. And we have also seen that in some verticals, the growth has been explosive. On top of or beyond, let's say, e-commerce and e-commerce wellness, new habits also have been taken by users. If we consider click and collect, for instance, buy online and pick in store, there has been a strong growth in terms of usage from people, especially in major countries in Europe and in North America. Obviously, governments, safety authorities have much encouraged the use of contactless payment methods based upon cards or phones. And you have an example of some communication made by Carte Bancaire, the domestic scheme in France, or the Indian government in India. And you can obviously understand why it is so important to use your phone instead of other contact payment mechanism. And those habits shouldn't change in the future. I think this is very important. The crisis is lasting, but the impacts of the crisis will be long. And according to a few surveys we have chosen, be they in mature countries or in emerging countries, we have seen that people which were yesterday maybe reluctant, or maybe which were doing a smaller part of their purchases online, now they are very much keener to privilege online without obviously giving up the local shops, but there is a strong push towards keeping the habits, and we don't really think there will be a return to those old habits.
Yeah, Angelo, can I ask a question about the huge uptake of these contactless payments in store during the last 12 months for obvious reasons, to keep ourselves safe? What about the profit and the deal, basically the average amount of the transaction? It's now also possible for very low ticket prices. You can pay contactless with card. What about the profitability of these transactions? Would you agree that acquirers need to focus on profitability as well as numbers of transactions in terms of measuring the success?
Yes, yes, for sure. It's good. It's good news for let's say all business related to cards, because we have seen to what extent cards are taking some market share to cash. Because I think everyone is willing to do the war on cash. So these additional billions of transactions, which are now contactless, is good news for everyone and for the acquirers, which possibly, yes, could or can adapt their business model to follow that trend. But now we have seen that any kind of shop is now accepting contactless cards, so it's really now common, and it's additional business for acquirers.
Okay, thanks, brilliant.
So if we look at some differences by geography, obviously we can't go through all countries, but those that we can consider as very much advanced in the field of digital wallets and mobile payments are China, India, and Africa. So China is definitely number one, as we said, thanks to the success of Alipay and Wechat Pay, and the volumes of transactions they succeed in managing is really impressive. There is no comparison in other parts of the world, and there is no reason except the crisis to see that it will change in the future. And on top of being the lions in their home countries, Alibaba and Tencent, as we have seen, they are looking to expand abroad, and they have already started making many agreements with PSPs, acquirers, so that their clients in China can use Alipay, Wechat Pay when we travel to Europe and to the USA. India has been very good at succeeding in their digital transformation in general, and transformation in the payment area specifically. And there are many contenders in the country. Some Indian companies are really successful and have become unicorns, if we consider Paytm, for instance. But on top of the local players, Google, Facebook, Amazon are already active in the country and have got some success. So now that, if I remember right, Whatsapp Pay has been authorized by the Indian government to play its part. We will see if really they will be very much successful. In Africa, as I said before, the market has been really developed first by the mobile network operators. You all know M-Pesa, but we can add Orange Money, MTN, Airtel. And now they are joined by other companies, fintechs, and also incumbent banks, which started launching their own solution. So mobile money is really common now in Africa, with close to 500 million users across the continent. If we consider Europe, there is obviously a lower penetration of digital wallets and mobile payment services for one obvious reason. We have effective payment methods, and the best one is the card, which does the job in many situations, whether you want to buy offline or online. And the upgraded threshold put on the card last May contributed to the takeoff of additional transactions made by cards. Beyond the cards, we have many initiatives around mobile payments. Some of them taken by the banks. Obviously, the X-Pays are very famous as well, and now they are working with hundreds of banks across Europe. And banks have made a few coalitions. So they have decided, or probably they are now aware, that playing alone is not enough to be successful, and they have to join forces really to cope with tough competitors like X-Pays or other one. And we have seen that in specific verticals, in specific context, the usage of mobile to pay has definitely increased. And on the right side of the page, I have chosen the Nordic countries for two reasons. First, they are heavy users of cards, probably amongst the best in the world, with about 400 transactions per year per card. But beyond that, they are also strong users of mobile to pay, and the figures of mobile pay by Danske Bank, Swish or Vipps in Sweden and Norway speak for themselves. So a true success. They have really succeeded in making the service really broadcasted into the population, and to make it an omni-channel service where you can send money to your friends, ask for money from your friends, and you can obviously pay online and offline. So these models are really interesting, and we have a few of them in other countries. I mentioned Blik in Poland or Twint in Switzerland, which have a similar success. If we go to the States, we have more or less the same story with let's say some differences. First of all, obviously, Americans are strong users of cards. They have 5 to 10 cards in their wallets, either debit or credit, but a few of them are really contactless. It's hard to have exact figures, but my estimate is that below 20% of the cards have contactless features. The USA are the home country of Apple Pay and Google Pay, and now thousands of banks from the biggest ones, JP Morgan, Bank of America, etc., to the credit unions. They have all decided to work with Apple Pay and Google Pay, which are now generating billions of transactions a year. So it's a true success. Large retailers, as in Europe, they have also decided to have their own solution, and probably the most successful is Starbucks, and they make about a quarter of their revenues with their own wallet. And P2P providers are also enjoying a fantastic period of time. If we consider Zelle, Venmo, and Cash App, and we have seen an uptake of their volumes during the pandemic. So despite the negative impacts of the pandemic, obviously, for the business of payments, especially in a few verticals, it has been a fantastic period of time. If we now want to look at what could take place in the near future, I have selected, obviously it's not comprehensive, a few challenges on what we could see in the future. I spoke about super apps, and probably we could have super currencies in the future. But if we stop at super apps, we have seen how brilliant some of them have been along the years, and their ability to build their own ecosystem, which is as vast as self-sufficient, to stick their clients. And it's an entry door to many services beyond payment, and this is the key differentiator, where you can find many services, and I put not Alipay or Wechat per service, but Grab initiative, which is quite successful in Southeast Asia. They used to be the Uber of the country, and they decided to change their business by enhancing their value proposition and really supporting lives of their clients across many topics. So I do believe that these models, which are maybe peculiar to some regions, we don't have the equivalent yet in Europe or in the US, but in those regions, it's really something special and probably lasting in the future. And we can probably say that Facebook would be very keen to do the same, even if today they have not really succeeded in doing that. Another revolution, obviously, is driven by the phenomenon around crypto assets, cryptocurrencies, CBDC, and so on. And probably last year and this year could be considered in the future at the inflection point for, let's say, the development of the usage of crypto assets to pay more massively than it used to be yesterday, and it is today. We have many initiatives, either public and private. More and more merchants are accepting those payment methods to pay online, and we can also observe the strategy by Visa and MasterCard. They are very aggressive, and they want to do their best efforts not to lose these additional streams. If we look at Europe, and we have the Payment Service Directive, the second one, which is an enabler of what is now commonly called open banking. And it's not a revolution yet, but it will be a booster of new payment mechanism driven by both payment initiation, and instant payment, the famous SCT Inst, SEPA Credit Transfer Inst. And if you combine those two assets, you can definitely build a new service which can get around the usual rails and replace, to some extent, cards in some use cases. And I have put two examples of launched of this kind of services by two banks, BNP Paribas, which decided for the occasion to work with Token, an open banking provider, and NatWest in the UK, which probably was one of the first in Europe, at least, to embrace that possibility. And they are currently providing a service called Payit, based upon open banking and faster payments. If we get back to banks, and if we look backyard, and if we look at what they are doing now, we know that when it came to mobile payments and digital wallets, they have not always been consistent. So a small critique towards them, but it's quite normal to some extent, because it was not always easy to select the right horses to be successful. Obviously, they failed as every stakeholder when they decided to rely on SIM-centric model. But after that, from time to time, they decide to work with the schemes, the domestic ones or the international ones. From time to time, they decide to work with the XPays. Sometimes they want to go alone. Sometimes they want to work with their peers. And if we look at HCE, I have put a selection of services which have been given up by a few banks across the world, when others are still alive for the time being, because we never know if they will stop in the future. So it's not easy to do the right bet on the right model, but in the end, you have to be aware of the decisions you have taken yesterday to consider the situation where you are today. Today, you can criticize the heavy weight of Apple Pay, but who did decide to put the card into the Apple Pay wallet? And on top of those considerations, we can't avoid to talk about EPI, the European Payment Initiative, which is obviously at the early stage. So it's too early to marvel, but we can only hope that it could be or could become successful due to the joint efforts made by different types of stakeholders, mainly the banks. And today we have banks coming from 7 or 8 countries, plus other kinds of providers like Nets and Worldwide. In the end, EPI should be a card, should be a wallet, should be a peer-to-peer solution. We can only hope again that it will be successful, but the execution that will take place in the next years will be crucial to make it happen. So, as a conclusion, a few takeaways. So the effects of the pandemic will be lasting. So and I think the habits again we have taken in terms of ways of buying and ways of paying, so the habits will last in the future. Contactless cards, we can say in Europe and in other major countries, will be or are already the new normal, thanks to the volumes now that are made contactless. It's nearly 50% in France. It's 80% already in the UK. And obviously, mobile payments and digital wallets will be increasing their share, no doubt on that. Nonetheless, one of our favorite master words is cohabitation. So I am a strong believer that cards will be disappearing, won't be disappearing soon. So they won't disappear for sure. And within the world of digital wallets, there will be many models and many types of services. So, except maybe in a few countries like China, where two leaders are the true dominators. In other regions, the landscape will be diverse. Hopefully, it will be diverse. It will mean more choice for the users. Nonetheless, you don't have to lose time, because some places are already taken by many stakeholders. So if you want to enter the arena, you have to be a strong gladiator, yeah, and you have to show your muscles. So you have to be strong, and that's the reason why, indeed, the European banks decided to build EPI, to join forces and have more power for their investments. So we have to keep in mind the usual key success factors we mentioned before, and if you follow this one, you can only be successful. Thank you very much for your attention, and I will be pleased, obviously, to answer your questions afterwards.
Thank you. Over to you, Christophe.
Thank you, Angelo, for that detailed presentation on alternative payment, that amazing world that with so many initiatives and increasing volumes. So on Limonetik side, we have always bet on that diversity coming from alternative payments. I'm not going to get back to numbers again. As Angelo said, there are so many payment methods that have evolved, that have died, as well as Angelo mentioned. And so for merchants that wants to sell online, cross-border, it becomes complex for them because they don't want to miss sales, obviously, so they have to offer the good payment method. And as we said, Visa, MasterCard is no longer the best and unique payment method to consider. And so receiving payment become more and more complex. And there is another trend that is important to take into account, that is marketplaces. Marketplaces, we all know some amazing name like Deliveroo, Uber Eats, Rakuten, and so on. And marketplace become as well very important because most of merchants, franchises launch or have launched their own marketplaces. And I'm mentioning that trend because marketplace, it's about receiving money from different payment methods and also sending money to the different vendors, to the taxi driver, to the restaurant, to the suppliers. And this brings a lot of advantage for merchants, and it's cool for users because they have a one-stop solution. But then it makes more complexity to take into account because all payment methods have different behavior depending on marketplaces setup. So some payment methods accept to be used for a marketplace. Some of them do not. Some of them will accept that in some countries, but not in other countries. Some of them will accept to be used in some countries, but don't want that the money could be sent to vendors in too far away countries. So what was already complex with alternative payments for traditional merchants tend to become a nightmare for when it comes to marketplace because of those multi end-to-end, I would say, sources and destination. Limonetik, we are a white label payment solution. So through one API, we offer 285 payment methods. We do every type of payment method, from prepaid, meal vouchers, travel vouchers, to wallets, to payment by installment, to far away credit cards. We do that online, but we do that also in store, and that's a demo that we are going to share with you. And we have all the tools that will be needed as well to make sure that clients of Limonetik will be fine with using those payment methods. So we might also offer some KYC web form to upload KYC, for instance, customizable type of reporting, white labelized back office, and so on. We said white label because Limonetik, and I will make it short, we prefer to work directly for payment players of the industry. So the 285 payment methods that we offer them mainly in a white label solution to gateways, to acquirers, to financial institutions, to payout providers. And also we can do that directly for merchant and marketplace when those merchant and marketplace have very international ambitions or rich, or sometimes the other way, one might have some very local payment method needs. Okay, so 285 payment method. We can do that in processing mode, in collecting mode. This will, of course, depend on what the gateway, the acquirers, the banks, the payment provider might need. We are PCI DSS, of course. We are compliant with PSD2 when it comes to marketplace because we build marketplaces and we make sure that our payment method will be compliant with PSD2 expectation when it comes to marketplace. We cover 70 countries. So our payment method, we have all of them in Europe, but we have also payment method in Africa, South Africa, Tunisia, USA. We do credit card in US. We do ACH in US. In India, in Singapore, Indonesia, and so on. So many different countries that we cover with those payment method. And we are about to be to generate 2.5 billion euro of transaction this year. Here you can see the different clients of Limonetik. So as explained, we work for gateways, for banks, for full service solution. But sometimes as well, we can work directly for marketplace or merchants, guys like CMA, CGM, or Uber Eats that we launched this week, and Deliveroo, and we can do that in B2C and B2B because we know that expectation in B2C and B2B are not the same in terms of payment methods, needs, and UX. Okay. The big case we wanted to share is about Alipay and Wechat payments. So Alipay and Wechat payment is a QR code payments. This Alipay and Wechat payment can be used to pay online by Asian, Chinese tourists, of course. And we offer that. We do that for Le Bon Marché, for instance. But Alipay and Wechat is mainly used in store. And so if you want to have Alipay Wechat used in store, as a shopper, as a retailer, you have two different options. You might enable this Alipay Wechat acceptance through your cashier. So your cashier will scan directly the QR code of Alipay Wechat and the QR code that will be on the mobile phone of the payer. Or you can prefer to go for a point-of-sale solution where this is not the cashier that is going to scan the QR code, but you are going to use your mobile point-of-sale, or even as a shopper, as a retailer, you might want to use your mobile phone that will be then used as a point-of-sale in a way, and that will be used to scan the payment method, the QR code of the buyer. That's what we would like to show with you as a business case. We have a video for that. This is something that we've done for gateways in France and also a big bank. So their needs were very different. For one of them, they just wanted us to do the processing of that payment method and make sure that we would be correctly connected to the cashier to do so. For the bank, it was very important for them that we could offer a white label solution that could be downloaded on Apple mobile phone or Android mobile phone, and that could be used very easily by the shopper with their own mobile phone. It had to be white label. It had to offer the easy onboarding of those shoppers to make sure that within 48 hours maximum, a shop that want to accept Alipay Wechat could do that immediately with everything set up. And that's what that banks wanted to offer, and that's what we built for that bank in a white label solution. That's what I'm going to share with you, what the user see when he pays with Alipay Wechat, and what the buyer that's going to use its mobile phone is going to see. So I've got a video to share here, if I'm using it correctly. Yes. So I'm sending that. So what we just share with you guys is what we did for that French bank that wanted to offer to all his clients, in-store shop clients, Alipay Wechat acceptance. So you saw that the shop can, of course, accept a payment, can refund a payment directly from its mobile phone, and can also refund the payments directly from its mobile phone. Very easy to use. And as you can imagine, for the bank, that's a bit more complex. Customization had to be done on the reporting, of course, because it's a big French bank with different departments and regional banks that wanted to be able to follow and understand clearly what was happening in every zone, in every region of France. And so we had to develop for them a good customizable reporting that could fit with their expectation, and all of that being done in white label, of course, to make sure that Limonetik remain as a backstage, I would say, a solution. That's all, Melisande, I wanted to share about Limonetik.
Yeah, thank you so much, Christophe, and also thank you, Angelo. And I would like to go through the questions right away because we have quite a lot. First question to you, Christophe. A license question. Are you basically, is Limonetik under supervision of the Banque de France?
Yes, so Limonetik is an agent of payment institution, so therefore we have the ability to sign contract with marketplaces vendors, with any type of in-store retailer, to sign contract to collect payment for them, the funds, and then to dispatch those funds to them. Yeah.
Okay, great. And then a question about the video that you just showed. Why has the merchant has to scan the QR code, not the consumer?
Yeah, you have two options. It depends on payment method. Of course, it would be too easy if we had only one option, and if all payment method with a QR code would work the same. It's not the case, of course. And so sometimes it might happen that this is the buyer is going to scan a QR code. You might have already seen some QR code stick in some Chinese restaurants, and so it can happen that a buyer is going to scan that QR code in the shop. But we preferred a more the other way around, which is this is the shopper, the shopper that's going to type in the amount that have to be paid and do the other way around and scan the QR code that will be displayed on the buyer screen. So you can have both of them. Yeah.
Okay, brilliant. Question for Angelo. You talked a lot about digital wallets and about cards, but what do you think about this account-to-account payments, which basically means instant payments directly from the bank app in the Netherlands? And I'm Dutch, as you might have heard. And we have this ideal, which is pretty much ideal, I would say, in terms of instant payments, peer-to-peer, but also consumer to business, business to business. So what is your take on that? Will that be sort of the, maybe for the EPI, but sort of the new, the scheme that works, that has the future, so to say?
Yeah. I do think indeed we'll see even more solution boosted by account-to-account solution. And I think it's driven by the regulations. So with PSD2 and open banking in particular, we have now across Europe the SCT Inst, which is more and more used by population. So if you really succeed in combining payment initiation plus instant payment, you have maybe not immediately a killer app, but you can really change the game, especially in those countries, and you're right, where the habits around gyros, credit transfer is very high. And I know, and I should have indeed mentioned Ideal, which is a fantastic service. Nearly 75%, if I remember right, of Dutch e-commerce transactions are made via Ideal, and it's an inspiring model for EPI, definitely. And it's a clear example of a true success based upon account to account. One of the reasons why if I can mention why Ideal did find its way, it's because the local domestic card couldn't be used online. So it was a door, an open door for, let's say, new payment solutions, and Dutch banks have definitely made an impressive job. So will it be the case across Europe? I think it may be the case, but it won't be immediate because, as I said before, when it comes to habits, it's a mix of acceleration and inertia. When we are used to using one payment method, it's not always easy to change. But for instance, we know that the usage of cards can reach some limits. For instance, for heavy tickets, when you want to buy a furniture, a kitchen, so you can't use your card. And with strong authentication, giving based upon, let's say, online banking service, I think it will be an additional booster for the development of those solutions, for sure.
Brilliant.
And you mentioned, Angelo, the B2C, that bank-to-bank solution, open banking, will also help a lot in B2B, where you can see a lot of retail corporate B2B that sells complex product to professionals, and that start to do what B2C players started to do 20 years ago. They start to sell their product online, and we have many cases at Limonetik, like Airbus, Tetra Pak, CMA, CGM, Cramp Industrial Components, Siemens. They sell IRM online. So complex product, and those guys, well, they have been paid for years by bank transfer. End of days, due terms payment, end of month, type of payments. And that open banking brings some innovation on how professionals can pay each other online, still, reusing those rails of bank transfer, but make them more digital, more immediate, and we see a lot of leverage to do on that for B2B, and we love B2B.
Great. Last question for you. What is the big difference between a marketplace and a point of POI, I would say point of interaction?
Point of sale, maybe I said point of sale?
No, it says POI in the question.
POI, point of interaction. I should maybe, but I don't know what is a POI. I don't know. I cannot answer that question because I don't know.
We move to the next one. Do you also offer, and that's the final one, do you also offer estate management?
Estate management? That's a question?
Yes, that's the question. If you also offer estate management.
Estate management. So no, today we do not offer estate management as such. That's something that is in the roadmap for sure. Many things going around that, but it's not yet live at the moment.
Okay, well, we're at the end of this webinar, and I first would like to thank you, Christophe and Angelo, for your time and for all these insights with us and the audience. And I would like to thank the audience for engaging with the speakers, for tuning in on this webinar. We will send you all a link to this webinar webcast shortly, and we will get back to questions that we did not have time to include during the webinar. I wish you all a very good rest of the day and hope to see you next time. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.